Okay. Good evening. I want to call the Regional School District 13 Board of Education meeting October 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And we'll start with the pledge of allegiance. Please rise to the table. The pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and again, good evening. I'll do it, approval on the agenda. I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add a to 3. I would like to add B, dedication of the CRHS Regional High School band room. Do I have someone? So moved. Second by Lucy. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, presentations. We have some students from Brewster here today for some presentations. So we'll have Principal Deb Marie come on up. We're so excited for you guys to come tonight.
We have a lot of excited second graders here to share some of their very, very wonderful exhibitions that they entered into our Durham Fair this year. And we have students from all 4 of our second grades that are going to tell you about their exhibitions. Some of them had multitudes of exhibitions that they entered, but they only brought 1 today. So we also had a slideshow that we sent out. I think you probably all received it in my Friday update when I sent that out a few weeks back. So you've got to see all of their exhibitions that they took photographs of and shared in our school assembly as well. So I'm going to call up our first second grader for tonight. And it is Avery Zettergren. She is our first up. She's from Mrs. Boryab's room, and she's going to share today. What we have. There we go.
Hi, my name is Avery. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight. This Board of Education meeting. Project that I submitted into the Durham Fair was my picture on my dog. I submitted this picture because my favorite animal is a dog. I won a second place ribbon for my project.
Thank you so much. Very nice, Avery. Thank you. Charles Parness from Mrs. Boryab's room.
Hi, my name is Charles. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. The project that I submitted to the Durham Fair was an art project of a tree. I submitted this project because I used things around the house. It came out good. I won the second place medal.
And B. Checo.
Hi, my name is B. Checo. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. The project that I submitted into the Durham Fair was an art collage. I submitted this project into the Durham Fair because I want people to know what makes me unique. I want a blue first place ribbon for my project.
Thank you. Lachlan Spiro from Mrs. Rodriguez's room.
Hi, my name is Lachlan Spiro. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at a Board of Education meeting. A project that I submitted into the Durham Fair was a hammerhead cinnamon stick figure. I submitted this project because I thought it was cool and unique. I won a blue first place ribbon for my project.
We have Caleb Trowbridge now from Mrs. Rodriguez's room.
Hello, my name is Caleb Trowbridge. Thank you for letting me to present my Durham Fair project at the Board of Education meeting. The project I submitted is a bald eagle sculpture. The reason I picked this to put it into the Durham Fair is because they were my family's favorite. I won one first place ribbon on it.
Thank you. And Carly Hansen from Miss Rodriguez's room.
Hi, my name is Carly Hansen. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. The project that I submitted into the Durham Fair was a cow. That cow I painted. I submitted this project because when I go to the Durham Fair, I see many different kinds of cows. I won a blue first place ribbon for my project.
Clark Fleming. And Mr. Bernabio.
Hi, my name is Clark Fleming. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. I submitted 2 projects into the Durham Fair, a tie-dye shirt and a robot picture. I submitted these projects because I thought they would be interesting to people. I won a first place ribbon for my tie-dye project and a second place ribbon for my robot picture. Hello, my name is Maddox Cook. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. The project that I submitted into the Durham Fair was a climate derby coat. I submitted this project because I worked hard on it and I made it as part of steps. I won a first place ribbon for my project.
And Zachary Bracafaro. I'm not very good at them. Ah, Zachary. Thank you, Zachary. Come on up. I was having stage fright with your name.
Hi, my name is Zachary. Thank you for letting me present my project tonight at the Board of Education meeting. The project I submitted was a dragon I made to put in the recycled art category. I used paper plates, paper bowls, cardboard paper, and top glue. My mom and dad helped me. I won the first place ribbon.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing us to come and share all of their great learning, because we had a great time with all of our entries in the Durham Fair and working in the community and sharing in the community and learning in the community, because learning happens everywhere. So it was wonderful to be able to come and share these great projects that kids did outside of our Brewster School environment, but still part of our learning. So thank you. I have a quick question, guys. Would you want to do it again next year? That's one of my favorites, so keep it up.
Let us thank the Durham Fair Foundation for making this possible and all the volunteers who spend countless hours running that youth building. And it's a huge undertaking. Maybe one day you guys can run that building. That'd be awesome.
Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it and all your hard work.
Great job.
All right, so exciting. So we will move on to 3B. Dedication of the Coggeshall Regional High School Band Room. We are very fortunate tonight to have Bruce Schmetlick here tonight. And this dedication of the band room came from many community members, and Bob was a big advocate of it as well. For those of you who don't know, Bruce was the very first band director here at Coggeshall. He started the band program and really laid the foundation for what our music program is here in RSD13. Not only did you conduct the band, but several jazz bands, marching bands, pit bands for all the performances. Incredibly well loved in our community, and we can't thank you enough. And I know you've mentored all of the band directors after that, including Tim, who's here with us tonight. So we have a plaque we would like to plaque that was made by Nick Planetta that will be going into the band room. And we hope that you are celebrated and remembered for as long as we can possibly do that. So, anyway. Hopefully we can have that and we get it up. But thank you so much. That's right. We've got all of us too. So like a lot of years of education. So I'm very thankful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just gonna get a picture. Yeah. Bob, you want me to take it?
I got it.
You got it.
Who's got the fanciest phone?
Not me.
Yeah.
Any one of the students.
Like
here.
a seat.
We need their phone. You gotta hang there.
I can.
That's a great picture.
Okay. And my band sits are on the outside. They're gonna love it. Yeah, I think it's
Thank you.
Thank
you.
You're all very-
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob, for getting that. It's great. A lot. We appreciate it.
About a year ago.
Yeah, we'll talk about it for a little while. I had amended the agenda. Bob had asked me to put it on and it had completely slipped. So I'm glad we could do that. We will move on to public comment at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment should refer to items on the agenda. Is there any in-person public comment? I will check. You on me. And I don't know how you do this. All right, so we'll move on to remote public comment. If there's anyone online that would like to speak, please raise your hand. Hi, Carl. Hi, Roger. No hands. All right. We will move on to approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the Board of Ed meeting on September 13th, 2023.
Second.
Second, Jason. Any discussion, corrections, deletions on that one? I did not see any. No. All right. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Number 6, superintendent's report. A, grade level reconfiguration, 2024, 2025 update. I will hand that over to Doug.
Yes, thank you, Lindsay. If you recall at our last meeting, when the decision was made to reconfigure the grade levels, there was a request to come back at each meeting with some updates around that process and our planning around that process. Sometimes we'll have a lot to share, sometimes we'll have a little to share, but I want to kind of lay some groundwork for you, not just for now, but as we kind of move forward. So we meet generally each Monday, a number of us with our elementary principals, and at that time we laid out kind of some broad stroke areas where we need to be working in order to get this configuration fully in place by next fall. And not that this is an exhaustive list, but the categories that we identified in no particular order are areas of communication, staffing, budget, and logistics, feeling like just about everything we'll be doing around the planning will fall into one or more of those categories. And in terms of, and so we identified some of the things we'll need to do in the short and the long term. One of the immediate steps that we felt was important in the communication area, which again, I believe was something that the board had directed us to do, or at least implied in the conversation, was to get people's feedback about how we could best make this transition. And I thought that was a great suggestion. So we wanted to get to our parent-teacher organizations and request time on their next available agenda. As it turned out, 2 of them were very quickly after the decision. One was actually the day we had that meeting, so we had to scramble, but we went to Memorial, and we appreciate them accommodating us on short notice on the 18th of September. And then we were at Brewster on the 19th of September. And then we were at John Lyman Elementary School on October 3rd. And I'll note that several board members also came either in person or virtually, if that option was extended, to also listen to some of the input from those folks. And I think as kind of a summary of that, if you didn't attend or if you didn't hear, we did get some really good suggestions, but I think it's fair to say that some of the people that attended those meetings are still processing the decision. Some that are very much struggling with the decision, do not agree with the decision. And let us know that in those settings. And so some of them were just not ready to give us suggestions about how we could do this well, because they haven't gotten to that place yet. And I certainly understand that, and I tried to convey that as others did as well. But we still want that input. So it's an open invitation at those meetings, and we think those meetings provide a good venue. There was a suggestion at one of the meetings that was reiterated at the others once it had been made. I believe it first came up at the first one at Memorial, that ideally we might even create a combined committee of the parent-teacher organizations from the 3 schools to talk about moving this forward. That's, I think, an excellent idea. Again, that's nothing that we per se can make happen. It's going to take a willingness and time, quite frankly, from people who are already volunteering a lot of hours at their own schools. But if that can happen, the feeling was not only could that group inform us moving forward with this transition, but ideally, depending on where we go with our long-range plan, become the basis for a combined pre-K to 5 or K-5 parent-teacher organization. Again, I think a great suggestion on that. Other parents I've spoken to, kind of as many of you have, I'm sure, who have just had questions or thoughts or ideas, more in an individual setting. Again, most of the people I've met with in that setting, it's been more about the decision itself, and not so much about suggestions. But here and there, we have had good suggestions, and we're archiving all of those as we move forward. In addition, on the communication and this wasn't really designed this way, but it ended up just kind of working out this way. And we're still in the process, or I'm still in the process of doing this. Some of you may recall that last fall, a little bit later than this, I kind of made a deliberate effort around some of our strategic planning work and other work to engage with all of our teachers and licensed staff in small groups. So it took a while, it took a couple of months. So think like grade levels at the elementary departments, at the high school level. And those were really good conversations around a lot of topics, because, superintendent, you go in with here's what I maybe want to share, but then you get a whole lot unsolicited, which is really good to do. And so we decided we would do that again this year and start a little bit earlier. So as you might imagine, when I'm meeting with elementary folks, this is a top of mind topic. And again, I think there's a mixture, as there was with the parents, of still kind of processing the decision and coming to grips with, kind of the decision and the rationale for it, but also a lot of good suggestions about how we might do this well, including some who have moved multiple times as Horn is closed and as grade levels have moved, and those folks, I think, have been through some moves, and so they actually know kind of what worked and maybe what could have been improved. So, taking all those notes in addition to those kind of scheduled meetings, and again, we've got more to go than we've actually done at this point, so those will continue throughout the next month and maybe even a little bit beyond. As you might imagine, as I'm in schools, some people just kind of corner me and say, hey, kind of, this is my thought, this is my question, this is my suggestion, and we are taking all of that in, and we feel like that is really important input from our staff. And speaking of staff, the other item that I wanted to mention that I believe I did mention at multiple parent-teacher organization meetings, as well as with the staff, but just to kind of put it out there for all of you that weren't part of any of those, it is our intent, unless there's any reason you don't wish us to proceed at this point, to go ahead and survey our K-5 staff in terms of preferences for assignments for next school year, knowing that these configurations are going to happen. And this is to allow for input that I've already received informally, that there are people out there that really want to stay in their maybe current grade levels or assignments that they're currently serving, and others who might ideally like to do that, but if their grade level assignment is moving, may want to ask if there's an opening at their own current school location. Would we kind of consider that? And this is something that Kevin kind of manages for us every year anyway, through kind of open requests for transfers that, if a vacancy occurs kind of naturally, we would do that. So we believe this is something that we need to do, with the goal being, even though we want to finish the budget and be able to say 100% for sure, to give people kind of this is our intention of how to staff a lot earlier than, the May-June timeline, when typically we hold off on those things until the budget is complete. And so we'll have to give all those caveats, but I think it would be helpful for us to even know what those preferences are. And again, we're going to be very clear with people. You know how this works. All the preferences may not line up. And so we'll have some decisions to make around that. But what I sense from the staff as I spoke to them, it's kind of not knowing exactly what's going to happen, which is as troubling as kind of guessing in those regards. And I mentioned mainly being concerned about those that might have to change buildings, which obviously there will be some of that with this, but there might even be some changing of classrooms, like within buildings and assignments and things like that. And we we just want to give them time to be thoughtful in these types of decisions, and listen to, where we might place them. And again, unapologetically, it's in the best interest of the learners. And so that will be our guide. But a lot of times we can make that match up with where employees would like to be. And that will be both in the general ed kind of staffing situation, also with our special services, special education, the things that Jen oversees. Again, those folks are a little bit more accustomed to being moved year to year, sometimes day to day. That's right. That's right. But as Jen spoke with us about this, we're going to try to craft this survey instrument so that those individuals also can state those preferences, and we can kind of see where things end up.
So do you feel that with a staff survey, you'd get open, honest feedback from them? Like, do you have any concerns that the staff would be worried about giving a preference or?
I don't, and the reason I don't is if they don't, then they will have no say in the matter, and it is kind of our process. Again, if somebody, it's a really good question, Lizzie. If somebody currently would like to do something other than they're doing, I suppose there is that professional, you're kind of putting yourself out there because you may be worried about, oh, well, if my colleagues or my principal or whoever kind of finds out that I kind of wanted to leave, I don't sense that. And I don't know if you want to speak to that or not, Kevin, but I think, we operate from a premise of employees tend to be the most effective when they're doing the work they feel kind of called to do and doing it where they'd like to do it. But, if there's not an opening, say at a grade level, you could be waiting years to get into that grade level. And then, if somebody retires, that's when we typically hear about it. I mean, do you want to add anything to that,
Yeah,
Kevin?
and as you mentioned, Doug, this is somewhat of an annual process we go through every year. We reach out to both certified and non-certified staff, inquiring whether they would like to transfer to a different building. So this year, obviously, the dynamic is different. The process, I think, will be a little bit bigger. But I think, it sends a message that, we're listening. We'll do the best we can to provide you with a preference, if indeed you have a preference. And, I think that's worthwhile. And I think we're going to have some positive results from the survey. As Doug said, we can't guarantee every request preference will be granted, but I think we're going to make an honest effort to do so. So I think the survey is the first step in there. Jamie.
Does the union have any say in this? Because I know in my district post transition periods, they have dates and seniority kind of gives you your preference. I don't know. I like the overall idea though. I just wonder, is that going to be an issue with the unions? And
I don't think so. I've spoken with Craig informally and have made him aware of it. But I don't see anything contractually where, we need to consult with the union or, have the union be any formal part of the process. Will they be an informal part? I think so. But as far as formally, the contract's pretty clear that, we have the ability to staff buildings as we see most appropriate to meet the needs of our students.
So it falls under managerial rights, basically.
It does. And I think it's a good question then, Jamie, because I think what the contract speaks to definitively is any type of reduction in force. And clearly that would come through the budget process in the normal way. But if it's simply where do people staff? And again, I'll use Jen as an example. She does this, through my authority by delegation on a regular basis as children are transferring in and out of the district, as needs are identified, through PPT processes and things of that nature. And so the folks that report up to her through that, they kind of know that's how it is. I think it's a lot more unusual for like a classroom teacher to have this kind of situation. And I think what this allows for, but like I said before, is it's not just automatic. What you're teaching this year, you're going to teach next year. And all it's really doing is, given the magnitude of the changes, allowing Kevin to advise us on what could be a much longer process, whereas typically in the spring, it might be a handful of requests. And some of them amount to nothing because there are no vacancies. Well, here we kind of know what we know. And I think even in saying that, we may have people that are planning to retire or resign at the end of the year. They haven't told us that yet. So having these preferences ahead of time would even allow us to maybe go back to somebody and say, you know, when we made the initial kind of rostering of positions, we didn't have you there, but you had indicated that you wanted to do X. Is that still what you'd like to do? And kind of go from there.
In the interim configuration, do you foresee class sizes changing, that you're going to need full teachers to teach different grade levels?
I don't think so. And again, we haven't run those numbers yet. But we have, and this question has come up at several of the parent meetings, because sometimes people will get scared when something like this happens and think, oh my gosh. And you know, the answer is the board has class size guidelines. And that's what Kim and Kevin and I use when we build the budget for each year. And so those class sizes will stay the same unless and until you all tell us to do something different. And my suspicion is you won't, unless we get into a budget process where we have to look at those
So
guidelines.
realistically, for the interim plan, do you see teachers having to be moved to different grade levels from what they're currently teaching now?
Needing to
Unless,
be,
not unless they're requesting.
if they're
They
requesting.
Possibly want to stay at a school and not move and
Right.
teach a different grade level.
But they can say what grade level they're on in basic. If they-
Possibly, it depends on.
If they-
yeah,
Right.
we kind of have to see where everybody is. And I think part of this survey is also validating that the people that are where they are want to stay where they are. We don't want to just assume that because we're, you know, they're still the same schools physically, but they're going to be operated slightly differently. And again, this is always somebody's right. But I think typically the responses we get are by default, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, that if we don't hear from somebody, we just assume that what they were doing is what they want to continue
That's
doing.
correct.
We just don't want to assume that now because of some of the informal feedback we've already received from some staff members. But to answer your question, I would think probably mostly that's going to happen, what you just said.
It's also true, the flip side is if there's if a teacher needs to move because of a district need, that's happened as well.
Oh, without
So I
question.
just wanna, it's not always guaranteed that if you're a second grade teacher, you're
Correct.
gonna be a second grade teacher.
That's
example.
correct. And there's nothing in the contract that does that. Again, we know it's best for the learners. If there's stability and everyone can kind of have the longest runway to plan for what they're going to do the following year. But there are times when people get moved over the summer, either by choice or simply by need.
Sorry, I'm not.
No,
So something
Yeah.
that had come up, and I don't know, it might be something you talk about, but I figured I'd keep the lead on this one, is an overall theme of wanting to engage and have some sort of community forum. And for the ones that weren't at any of them or some of them, you know, they're all structured differently, all the PTOs. If we were going to do a community forum, I would ask that we set up some sort of structure of moderation, just so we can have an inviting, welcoming environment. You know, the conversations can be uncomfortable when we talk about emotion. And I know a few of us did not feel so comfortable for a good portion of some of the conversations. So I do want to protect everybody involved from parents to the board and make sure that we want to do that and what structure we want for some sort of community forum. You know, what did come down to is there, and I think that touched on it a bit, is that we got no real feedback from the Lyman meeting on how to move forward. Because again, they're struggling with, you know, the why and the how. And so I think that community forum is more to talk about the why and the how. So if it's something as a board we want to do, or we want to engage in, or if we want to move forward and allow the administration to have these conversations, you know, that was what was important to that group very specifically. And I want everyone to know that as well. So no payment has.
Yeah, Lindsay, the last time we had this one, the original thing broke up about Lyman, we had a forum that we went through all the options that we were looking at, and why Lyman was in the closure mode in that case. And we had a panel of selected panel of board members, like 4, who were represented the sides, and a moderator like Kevin, you know, who.
In each room. I remember, I was one of the parents.
Yeah. And had a moderator who could raise questions and stuff, and it was very congenial. You know, there were a lot of questions, but it worked well, and with the moderator and few, you know, time to talk and some. The basic thing is they want answers, so the panel that was there answered questions. And we had like 4 people answering questions.
And I think that moving forward, because it kind of muddles the options, and that's something that we've already said that we'd be going out with once we had our options to the public. This seems like they would very specifically like to talk about our reasoning behind our decision, move forward the interim. So that, I mean, we could have 2 of them. We could have one just based on that. I don't know how productive it would be. I mean,
A lot of the long-term stuff is gonna amend what we're doing, because it uses a lot of those options, use spaces at the 3 schools.
well, that's what I'm saying. I think we're at the
So-
same point where do we want to communicate that we're going to have this discussion in conjunction with the
I think would make more
configurations going out?
sense.
Right.
But
Knowing that there will be some conversation about why and what is best and.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to move forward, we could, you know, bring it up and talk about it, but I think a lot of those options that we're looking at will, you know, put different grades in those schools that we've been talking about, and so we need to figure out if that's, which is more important, you know, to have it ready for a long-term interim plan, or have it ready just for an interim plan, you know, so if they link, then we ought to be able to link them together.
I agree. I think linking it would be a better choice. So we could work on putting something together after next month's meeting. What? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I just had a question. If we were revisiting, I know we had mentioned it at one of our other meetings, the possibility of building that transition plan for the kindergartners who are at Lyman.
It wouldn't just be Lyman.
That's not just-
There would be a grade level from.
Are we still considering that, like building that transition plan? Like the kindergartners at Lyman now, then coming back to Brewster, then going back to Lyman again? I know
there was some concern about it being tougher for staff overall. I don't know if Doug, you wanted to speak to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can do it. It would make it a 2-year process instead of 1. I think I'm the one that first raised it based on experiences I've had in other districts with this, and it did come up at a couple of these meetings, and that's more the one-on-one conversations I've had with some of the families who are specifically in those impacted grades. The 2nd grade at Brewster, the current 2nd grade, and the current kindergarten at Lyman, and the way it could work. Again, the board would have to make this decision if that's something you'd want to do, is those kindergartners at Lyman would stay, and we would staff Lyman for 1 additional year in grade 1.
Mhm.
And concurrently, we would take the 2nd grade from Brewster and have 1 more year of grade 3 at Memorial, and that would accommodate the concerns that we've heard recently of a 1-year move followed by another move, and kind of compounding all of that. And so if that's what the board wants to do, we will certainly do that. And again, I think, not to rush you guys on that, but if that's what we're going to do, it might even change the way we structure this staff survey, because it'll happen over a 2-year period. And so
Were there drawbacks to doing that though? I know you had brought it up at the Lyman meeting. So
What are the positives and negatives for?
well, I think the positives for the learners is fewer transitions, and for their families, the feeling that for very young children, and knowing that these kids all went through COVID and things like that, that this could be more difficult. The negative is the goal of this interim plan, as I understand it, as you guys have articulated it, which is a big positive, is that grade levels are combined. And so we get all the teachers on 1 grade level, together for professional learning, for the implementation of the literacy curriculum, for continuity of cohorts of children to be together. And so this would put that off by, make it a 2-year phase in instead of a 1. And I think to Bob's point and also Lindsay's, I would really think where we're going long-term would play into all of this as well. But I don't know how soon it's going to take to get the community to support one or more of the options that we're considering, and that.
And I think that's a big part of it.
That is, that is. the part.
Because ultimately, I think what everybody's failing to realize here is that the long-term goal is to get K-5 at Memorial. And that the longer we prolong this is making this more difficult as a process for everybody to absorb. Whereas if we were moving forward on getting a K-5 at Memorial and getting this moving, we're talking about maybe 1.5 years, 2 years. Am I right or wrong on that? As far as
There's
getting
some
that,
different timelines depending on the.
let's say 2 years. But we know it's 2 years and then everybody will be K-5 at Memorial at that point. So I'm really confused by why everyone's really up in arms about it, because it is going to be a disruption. I'm not saying that, people's, how they're feeling about it is not legitimate, because it is legitimate. But the long-term goal is to have 3 schools K-5 and get everybody there. This is a temporary fix or temporary movement for us to get to a long-term goal. And I think we keep getting away from it.
But whether we rush in or, wait 2 years and phase it, does that delay
And it has
the
nothing to do with
K-5
it. I'm not saying it's
altogether? Like whether we do it all next year, or whether we do a 2-year phase, and does that ultimately delay the K-5? long-term
Well,
goal?
I guess if you're asking my opinion, and I think I've said this before, but it bears repeating. We are able to implement the interim plan that you've all put into place. And, I've been quoted and misquoted about it's practical and doable, and we can make it all work. I still think in a perfect world, the long range plan would be set first, at least the trajectory. What is it going to be? And I think then an interim plan to get to that is how I've typically seen it done. And this is what some of the people told us at some of these parent meetings. And I think it may be adding to some of the frustration and maybe even confusion, which is why I think the suggestion from Bob and Lindsay about, like, I would shudder to think we would have a separate forum just about the interim plan from the long-term plan, because I think it's all about, plus we're trying to get people to support the long-term plan.
Exactly.
And I think this might be a way to kind of bring folks together. So I didn't really answer your question, except to say that if you want us to do the 2-year phase-in, we can do that. It's just, again, prior to at least going into budget, we would want to know that, because it would mean fewer children would be moving or transitioning from what they had planned in year 1, and fewer staff. And then it would come in the second year. And that's a decision. I mean, I guess my only thought is I wouldn't want to do one and not the other. I don't think there's any different argument for kindergarten at Lyman than there is for second grade at Brewster, other than the age of the children. And I guess reasonable people could disagree, but I don't know how we justify doing one and not the other. I think we should either consider doing both or just stick with the plan the way you guys approved it.
Right.
One thing I vaguely remember from one of the meetings when Rusty was here was saying that getting even one grade level out of Memorial and start to renovate would be beneficial. Right. It frees up more room to be more room to make more renovations. So if we do a phased in approach, we have 3 grade levels there longer, which could delay
Which prolongs the project.
the project.
Yeah, that's very possible. Again, I'd feel more comfortable if you were answering those questions to be able to tell to what extent. No, I think you're exactly right on that.
And I think there's different scenarios that change that a bit, and so I think that's important. to
Correct.
look at.
Occupied versus unoccupied, and it even goes to what the final design preference and project is even scaled to do. And that's where we need to get into it with him and his expertise.
And that's next month.
I don't know that we've set a formal date
Well,
for
I
it,
think
but
we're waiting for Rusty. We can schedule that one.
Yeah, you could do that. I didn't know if that was a definite.
Yeah.
So 5 o'clock on the 8th. Yeah, okay. I'll let 'em know.
Yeah.
So the same night as the regular meeting, so that would be like a, just like a long work session instead of a 1 hour.
I would like to invite finance committee to that one as well, coming in ahead of budget season along with the financial implications on that. I think it's important. To that building and building and finance, even if finance was just observing, we couldn't.
I think we had them invited for
Yes.
the original.
Yeah.
But
No, our finance thing, but we could ask Board of Finance, both Jim and Mike. Make that come as well.
And would we have like a special meeting to determine the forum, like the community forum stuff, or like, is that something we'll be scheduling?
Yeah, I think we could do that even at our regular meeting after the joint meeting. We want to put that on the agenda for the regular, want to write that down for the regular meeting.
To discuss.
A community forum and how we want that structured and when, and we'll have, all of our
After the 8th,
options from them.
after the
It's the
8th.
same night. Our regular meeting is the same night, so it would be that evening.
Do the community forum that night.
No,
just
plan.
talk
It's
about
about
it.
the structure.
So after.
it would be after the,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I saw that look. I was like.
If we're gonna get information out there that is vitally important for people to know and to understand, which is everyone's hang up here. You need to give them a day or two or so to absorb that.
Oh, no, we look at
So,
probably out a week. or
And I
so.
don't want to speak for Kim, but doesn't Rusty also have some experience with engaging the public around, and that's part of what we contracted with him to do. So I think,
Would he come to that forum to be able to speak?
Oh, absolutely.
and
That's what I
if
think
he
I brought up
wanted
at the
to,
meeting
and
too.
he
I
might
felt
even
like
have suggestions.
Seeing questions and
Yes,
stuff.
he
would
might
be
even have suggestions about how that has been successfully done in other districts
Perfect.
that he's supported, because I think what has come up, and again, the board members that were there would know this. Some of the questions we got in these parent forums were questions that really only he could answer. And so we didn't want to speculate or say, well, we remember he said this. I mean,
Right.
he's the expert and that's what we hired him to do.
That's typically what he does, but if you didn't want him to attend, he's.
Right. No, yeah.
I can have
that
this
up.
for Mr. Aaron as well. The one who is the
We also
financial.
have people that are on the building committee that have a lot of experience in two in particular that have done these projects. So, I mean, we have a lot of experience that have been behind the scenes that people may or may not know, but if they watch these meetings, they would.
So we were looking at. Sorry, getting my calendar. Our regular November meeting. Is. It's November 8th. Oh, there it is. Okay, so then we could possibly do it. We could possibly do that following week, but I don't know if we could get together moderators and the space in that time, and then we're running into Thanksgiving. If not, we'd have to do
Yeah.
it right after Thanksgiving.
I
break.
would also prefer to get his thoughts about this because I don't know. if
No, we're not booked. I'm just talking
Yeah.
like hypothetically.
Well, and the reason I'm saying this is, again, I don't know exactly his methodology, but we're envisioning a single event. He might have a suggestion that we offer multiple
Mhm.
times and venues, and that might be a little different than what those parents were suggesting to us. My experience is if you have a single event, that's great for the people that can come to that single event, and everybody else says, oh, that was not convenient for me, so.
I just don't want to do it separate schools again, though. I feel like it has to
I don't
be,
disagree with that at all,
uh,
because this is a district-wide.
right.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said several times, the parents need to hear each other. So
I agree. I agree. And what Bob suggested, that might be the way to do it. I just,
It was a really great, for those that were involved in the back then, it was really great. And the way that they split groups up, it was parents from different schools. You know, having such a small community, I think they were able to really do that, mix everybody up, and you may not have agreed at the end, but y'all really respected what each other said at the table. And I got Tom Ford at the time.
That wasn't the initial one. We had an initial one where it was a public hearing, I remember in the cafeteria at the high school. When the architects put out the different plans. I don't know if you remember that, Bob.
Yeah, these were two
yeah,
different.
but don't have
Well,
us
this-
talking about
this
was
was
that
done
the
later.
strong school gym.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was done later,
Mm.
not the initial one who let the public know what the options were.
Right, we will move on to the Merwin Fund
Okay.
Center grant.
thank you. So, once again, we're very grateful for the Merwin Trust. We got $10,000 again this year for funding some learner-centered grants. So once again, teachers and other staff had the opportunity to apply to have this money put to some innovative and creative programs that they are scheduling for this school year. And I just wanted to give you a kind of a short outline of who the award winners were and what's going to happen. And I've got some more details and I'll email that to you later tonight or tomorrow morning, just so you have the details. But once again, they're all at the high school and the middle school. I don't know if the elementaries are too busy with that expeditionary learning or anything else, but so we'll work on trying to get more of them to apply in future years. But at the high school, we have a conservation and sustainability outreach program that's being run through the Eco Club. That's by Rachel Mann and Erica Fisher. We've also got an innovative art display system for project-based learning, capstone presentations, and art shows that was proposed and is being led by Ryan Bothamley. And then our third one at the high school are robot sensors to support more individualized learning, and that was Diane Walsh. And then at Strong, we have education and exploration and career experiences. That was Rebecca Sanusis. We have some science-based off-campus experiences for Maura Brogy. And we have some video equipment and software to support Spartan News. And that one was submitted by Carolyn LaRosa. So again, very thankful to the Merwin Trust for supporting and also thankful for the staff members, because, you know, we can designate these funds. We're empowered to do that as the district leadership. But I've always been a fan of kind of putting it out there and seeing who will spend the time to write up these kind of internal grants is what they are essentially. And as you all know, we did a lot of cool things last year and got a lot of great ideas, not just for that particular teacher or that setting, but things that other teachers are replicating. So
Spartan News was a big hit last year.
Yeah, it's now the form of one of the electives that's currently being offered from last
Yeah,
year.
had a lot of fun with that.
Implementation, so I think that they're pretty excited about that. Good to see.
Just curious, were there any people that put in for the grants that didn't get any money?
No, I
don't think
think we
so. I think
awarded
we're able-
all the individuals.
yeah, and if we had, and then we thought they were all deserving, what we may have had to do is reduce the amounts.
Yeah.
But I think, were we able to give everyone the full amount, or do we have to reduce a little bit?
We had to reduce slightly, the last one, that came in after the deadline, we had already given out what people had asked for, and so.
But they're not turning it away.
No, absolutely not. $200 less.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything significant.
Awesome. All right, thank you for that, Doug. Keep going with number C.
Okay, so,
Upgrade.
Yeah, I don't know where you parked tonight, but if you parked on that side, you may have noticed the new structure located now right next to the high school stadium as part of that complex. And of course, we're talking about the field house project, and we know that many people have been waiting for this to be completed for many, many years. Want to thank the members of this board. I want to thank the members of our building committee. Of course, they're not here tonight, but thank them publicly. Also our staff and our community for coming together to make this happen. I also want to make sure that you're all aware, we did send an email out when the press release went out, but not when the actual award. I actually found out about it because Lindsay texted me because she, I guess, was watching the live stream. So last Friday, we received the official state approval for $430,000 to install restrooms in the new building and stadium lights. And I want to, give my thanks to Governor Lamont, our General Assembly at the state level, and specifically our local legislators who championed the efforts to obtain this state funding. And I believe we might even have a video.
Yeah, we do. I do have one.
Lindsay has teed up.
If you haven't been able to see it yet, I do want to thank Candelora. He really worked hard on this. Something watching the live stream, which was really interesting to see, is that bond council subcommittee did a lot of work to get here for a lot of different communities. So Here's an update.
It's my house. Turn it up. It knocks on the door and the night begins. We've done this before, so you come on in. It's enough for home to make you bed. We still have something cold that makes you feel. Sometimes you can't stay there, and you know where I live. You know what we did. Sometimes you gotta say, hey, control. Then you know that you wanna stay. Sometimes the pretending at the time has changed. You got clothes on the floor, open up champagne. Let's continue tonight, come on, get a break. That's how we sometimes you got to stay. And you know where I live. You know what we did. You gotta stay. From the mind, they control now. Even slow now. You don't have to.
Stop on that one.
Definitely better than porta potty.
So on that one, I don't know. Drew, could you pull up the last video, just pause it? The last part of the video. I didn't want to talk over it because I didn't want to ruin it. Sorry. I like the construction film. If it's too much.
You gotta stay.
Just for the last still. Yeah. So on this one, if you go all the way on the right-hand side, you see the doors. That first door is, I believe, the men's bathroom, and the next door is the women's bathroom eventually. The third door I actually found out is a janitorial closet. And the fourth door itself is the family bathroom. Consequently, on the other side, you don't have to close, right? It looks like there's a big opening, like a garage door. It just happened to be open at the time, but it's been fully done and put in. And so the plumbing is laid out where those doors are for bathroom. And rest of the space, I just say having it out there, having people walk by, a lot of people are saying like, oh, what are we gonna do with it? Where, you know, what's gonna be inside of it? I've just been saying like, you know, we just got that grant and the building committee can work hard with us to try to figure out how we're gonna utilize that space and what we really want for the other space, whether it's storage or offices or a locker room or what happens there, but it's pretty exciting.
I was at the soccer game today and there's a great deal of happiness over the view looking at the building. It looks like it fits exactly where it's supposed to.
It looks
be.
like it
And it's
completes,
great.
yeah. And I know they had originally thought that a blue building with the gray roof, and realizing that the actual press box is actually identical to this. So for them to have found the complete match, I'm a color person, so I was looking for the color difference, and it looks a little lighter here, but it is dead on to the rest of the, rest of the.
I really like the weather vane.
Yeah, yep, and there's one missing there, there's a pig, so it's a cow, a pig, and a rooster. We currently don't grow in the right directions, but we're gonna fix those out, but the installation company that was there all week was phenomenal. They were the nicest guys. They they worked, sometimes they were working until it was almost like dark and they had lamps on their heads. They were really great. So, yeah, thank them and the building committee and everybody. So even the kids running around are all excited around the track, and it's a lot of potential. So
I think we're a little under budget, right?
a little bit right now.
That's how we do things on the building committee.
I know. JC Farm is donating some scenery for outside the front of it for the fall, and I don't know when that goes out, but that was really clear of them to do. Yes, John got his cupolas.
I got my Google.
All right. So we will move on to smart and very exciting. Hard to beat that one. Other updates if applicable?
Nope.
Okay. That doesn't have any other. Staff report, Director of Finance report, Kim?
Yes, month of September, we have expended 19% of our budget. 94% has been encumbered, and we've received 21% of our budgeted revenue. Auditors are here again this week and next to finish off their field work for the audit.
What company is that?
I'm sorry,
Which company is that? Is that the same?
that is Clifton Larson Allen. And they, our financial report, our independent review audit is due by December 31st to the state. So then they usually come and report to the board sometime in January, the January meeting. I put a draft budget calendar in each of your spots to just look at this. This is really just my administrative planning, kind of when I'm going to get the, so tonight we're reviewing it. The 23rd is when we will be having access given to our schools to their electronic budget materials. And by the 31st, I have to calculate the town shares, the town allocations back based on enrollment, and that's based on our October 1st enrollment. Asking for the budgets due back in central office the week of the 6th. And then we sort of do our administrative team reviews of any new proposals. And coming to January, the Board of Ed budget strategic planning, 20th, I guess that's tentative date for retreat, budget retreat. And then our administrative team and superintendent finalize the budget on the 26th, the week of the 26th for presentation on February 7th. If I have any of these dates that you don't like, please let me know. And then on the 21st, we will have start the after presentation, start the initial discussions with the board. In March, just because we had one last year too, in March, there was a finance committee meeting. And the same night as finalizing the budget and preparing for the public hearing. Public hearing, April 3rd. Prepare the mailer, April 8th, the week of April 8th, mail them out on the 12th, district meeting on the 6th, and the referendum on May 7th. And some of those things are statutory dates, and they back into other dates in terms of when the notification needs to be made for the public hearing and the referendum. So, you know, this is just a draft, but if you have any changes, let me know. If you want to add anything or change any of the dates, we're going to send this out by the 23rd. So,
And if I could add, our plan, as we typically do, next board meeting is to have a draft for board and board committee meetings for calendar year 2024. And so we need these things to sync up. So for example, if you guys don't want to have a retreat on the 20th, where it's been historically, we can change that. We'll have plenty of time to do it. Kim will just, you know, yeah.
So if everyone, because that was one of the concerns, because I want to make sure that we're all there for that. If everyone could check the 20th January. And then if there's any issues, get back.
That's a Saturday.
Yeah, get back to me, since that is a Saturday and vacation is in.
It's a Saturday and it's not the holiday weekend. The holiday weekend is the weekend prior.
and a lot of these, not a lot of these, but a lot of these dates really are kind of just for me to keep on track with when the schools get the budget materials, when I ask for them back, when we review the proposals and things like that. So
With the January one, are you okay with waiting until after, because what we could possibly have new board members, so I don't.
yeah, that's.
Well,
yeah.
and interestingly enough, not to get too far off topic here, but as we're preparing for the 9,000 series with the policy committee, and looking at Shipman's recommendations, they actually recommended in one of their policies that the board calendar for the following year be set prior to new board members taking office, just so it's not something they have to weigh in on. But I get what you're saying. If they already had a conflict with that, you could
Because
just,
I saw that.
you
in
could
the
just
9
amend it at that
documents,
point.
Yeah.
You could just amend it at that point. I mean, I think the key is if people that know they're going to be on the board already know that date doesn't work for them, then we should look for another date sooner versus later.
Yeah, I'm okay with them in, even end of October, November. We have to schedule a meeting for goals and objectives for another year. So maybe that as well. Okay, was that again? For the retreat?
Yeah.
The 20th of January. We'll hold on to that.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard, probably have by the year 2040, all school buses have to be electric. That's a long ways away, but it's not. 2040. After the year 2035, you cannot purchase a gasoline bus anymore, and then by 2040, they have to all be electric. So there were grants out about this, and in discussions with, I've been in discussions with DACO, can we get one of these grants? You know, what can we do? They're very, very expensive. And the grants are really servicing the, what do they call them? Sorry, but I want to get it right. Why can I not find this? Well, the areas where the greatest pollution is, let's put it that way. Oh, environmental justice communities. That's what I couldn't remember. So they really are for the environmentally justice communities. So they're not communities like ourselves who are more rural and not getting these grants. And so in our discussions with that, how can we get there? There was discussions about propane. And so DACO said, hey, we've got a fleet of propane buses that we would work with you on. Kind of a stepping stone to getting to electric. That doesn't meet our requirement to be electric by 2040, but it does get us clean, which we all care about, you know, for community. It gets us halfway there. It's a bridge. But what they have these buses, and they're brand new, and they would, through a municipal lease, so we would lease these buses from them. And I should say, our contract is up with them June 24 anyways. So it's time to start talking and thinking about, you know, for the next year. The greatest thing about a municipal lease is that municipalities don't pay sales tax, property tax, or registration fees. And you borrowed a very low rate. So it's very economical to do a municipal lease. And we've done them before. Bob would probably remember. And then at the end of this lease, the way it would be structured is DACO would purchase those buses back from us at 30% residual value. That's the key that makes it most important, because that's where we're going to save some money. We also, propane is a lot cheaper than diesel. Propane is at 0.92 cents a gallon and diesel is 3.17. So running some numbers for this, I have found that the current price of each propane bus is $114,000. So 30% of that is 34,000 times 18 buses. And then I estimate we would save about $195,000 in fuel costs over 5 years. So with that, we would really see a savings, believe it or not, over the 5 years of about $400,000. We will not receive that all in each year increments because we won't get the bus buyback until the 5th year. So I'll be getting that cash influx into the 5th year. But what that also does is that allows that money to then offset the budget because it's more revenue for us. So I think it's a great deal. I did query my CASBO group and said, if you've gone out to bid or you've negotiated your contracts, where are you at? And they're at like a 9% increase to a 14% increase. And this for us would be an average over the 5 years of a 6.04% increase. Over what we pay now, but that's not taking into account the buyback of the buses and the fuel savings.
So I bring this to you because I think it's a good deal. We have 35 years of history with DACO. And we are going to need to do something anyways. So we're either going to need to get new diesel buses, which are at 125,000 each. Or electric, which are about 350,000 each. With infrastructure costs. Or we go with the propane. We can keep our existing fleet and not get any new buses at all and just do another 5 years. But they're older. We're gonna have maintenance costs. We're gonna have buses off the road or breaking down and, it's not the best. It can be done, but it's not the best. So my point of this here tonight is to just let you know we have this opportunity. And that, if we don't take it, I'm sure Doc will offer it to somebody else and somebody else might take it. And that's great. If it's not for us, it's not for us. But I just kind of wanted to get your feel on that and just say, do we think this is something, because this will extend our contract with DACO by another 5 years. So that's the part of the arrangements. We'll amend the contract in this final year and extend it 5 years for this opportunity. Like I said, over the long run, we will save $400,000. We won't see it in your budget line item every single year in your budget. You're not going to say, I thought we were going to save $80,000 a year. You're not going to see that until the final year, when you get the payback. I came into a muni lease. When I came in here, we were in a muni lease with the buses, and it worked fine. That muni lease was only $1 purchase price at the end, so I didn't really see the value in it. But this one with the 30%, I think makes it worthwhile. I didn't have any bad experience with the muni lease last time. Every time you buy new buses, you've got to get them registered. Sales tax, property tax that DACO pays for, and of course they pass it on to your user. So not looking for a vote, not looking for anything, just kind of telling you we have this opportunity. If anybody doesn't like it or thinks that we should do something else, please let me
But
know.
your recommendation,
My recommendation is we take this. You can't even get propane buses right now because they're building electric buses. So you couldn't even buy propane buses right now if you want. These are brand new 2023 buses. Propane saves on maintenance, the fuel. I just think it's a good deal.
Did they buy them for a particular reason?
I think they saw the writing on the wall that propane wasn't going to be made because of the electric coming. And for this kind of thing to offer it out to other companies.
If we do
Other
this,
districts.
do we still have to deal with the electric by that?
Yes.
Okay.
So this
Yeah.
won't solve our.
But we
electric
still
problem.
need new buses anyway.
We still need
In the
new
meantime.
Surprised that mandate.
Yeah, these buses
They
aren't
have a
gonna
few
last
buses
us
now.
that, yeah.
Caught on fire. I'm surprised they.
Well, this
people
thing
with it.
This is-
Yes, it's huge.
Village.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, they-
Thankfully, no people were on it.
Kim, the only question I have is, if we do go ahead with this, say the value of the propane buses is 50% of what we pay for it, are we allowed to sell them to someone else, or are we locked into selling them back to DACA?
We would be locked into something with that. Yeah, I mean, I can negotiate that, but that's, probably part of their incentive, because then what they do is they sell them.
Yeah.
They don't sell to other districts because they're too old at that point.
Well, I know
They sell them to other-
typically buses lose a lot of value, but other states may value
That's right.
propane like electric.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many buses was it?
We have 18 pipelines.
Is that how many buses we currently have?
Yes.
Well, it's comforting to know that my automotive shop teacher over there, Jack Fairburn, Captain Jack, said propane is the future, and he converted a Volvo into
Yep.
propane. That was a project for us to do, and he drove it back and forth to school and back, and
They're very quiet, they're very
daily history of
clean.
propane.
For children with asthma and all that, it's better for them, cleaner air. Right now, the buses are not allowed to idle in front of schools for more longer than 3 minutes because of that. That would not be the case. They
So
would-
I'll assume with this lovely unfunded mandate by 2040 that they're not offering any incentive to help.
Not yet. There's like Volkswagen did a grant and there is state money, but like I said, it's going to the economically injustice areas first. So not to say that we can't get some by 2040. It's a big hit in the infrastructure too, because you've got to put in these charging stations.
That's what I was just gonna say. There's also
Yeah.
another cost that goes along with
Yeah.
that, and that's the
Yeah.
charging station.
Exactly.
Last time we went out to bid for buses, there was only DACO bid.
Yeah.
I was
So
mad at
it's-
that.
I think,
That we began.
we solicited a lot of people, but I think the buses have their territories, and they kind of don't step on each other. So
Yeah. we
the
all
last time we
understand that.
bid, we only got one bid.
And just to, to say to that, and the other side is someone might say, well, with the interim plan and if you're gonna switch bus companies, now it's time to do it too, right? Because everybody's will change. And then because you've got those favorite drivers that have driven the kids for years and they might not work for the new company. You also want a bus terminal close. You don't want to work with somebody out in Haven because it will take too long for them to get here if there's a bus. So there's, and there's some restrictions with, maybe available property in the area. I mean, I think we could do something with Middletown. It's not that far, in terms of a geographic location, but no one's really seemed to be interested in us. At that time, that was 4 years ago.
How's their staffing?
Better. I'm not gonna say we haven't had some hiccups this year, but they are always very reactive and willing to fix the issues. In terms of drivers, we are doing okay. Occasionally, we have to double if someone calls out sick. They tell me they have 3 drivers still in the learning process. And so it looks better than it did certainly last year. So we can table this right now. Like I said, this is my recommendation, but if you want to think about it, if you have any more questions or whatever, because it's a big contract. It's $1 million a year, so it's a big one. But you always, if we go out to bid, which is fine if we do. If we do, then we won't have this opportunity to get the propane buses because then we have to build apples to apples, right? So then we have to say, well, everybody propane. Which if we do everybody propane, not everybody has propane, so then it's back to DECO. Or we say all diesel, but all diesel buses are 125,000 now, they're more, and so, the cost will not be, it will be more.
How long was the life expectancy of a bus? Like if we were to buy new?
Oh, the fleet needs to be between 5 and 10 years. Yep, so it's kind of a mixture we have right now.
About like the batteries, like the regular cars with batteries literally cost more than the car itself.
With the electric buses, yeah, probably, yeah. And then that's still unknown with our routes. Again, we have our interim plan, but with our routes with being so long, will they even make a whole route? Will they have to stop and charge in between picking up tiers? Yeah, so.
Well, that was
that's
maybe
still
start looking
unknown.
at like rural sections.
For future.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
really
I
rural
didn't jump on
sections,
anything that say it says right now. This is future.
In 10 years, everything's gonna change.
It's a lot
Hopefully for the-
sooner, and I'm not sure if it's 2034 or earlier than that for regular people, like less than cars. And I think the Connecticut legislature, I know Vinnie Kimball in particular is kind of like saying this is not realistic. So there is some pushback going on, so
Yeah.
it could change. But
Is there a shelf life on this availability?
no, I mean,
They offered it to us.
yeah.
Is there anybody else that's interested?
I don't know. I don't think they've offered it to anyone else. I mean, we've been with them for 35 years, so they kind of want to, keep us. So they said, oh, we have this opportunity.
Is
And
it
I-
something we'd have to commit to before the contract or during that contract? Or?
So I specifically brought this conversation up with them and asked about propane. They didn't come to us and say, hey, look at what we have behind this door. I said, what do you have for propane? So that's how this was born. We would need to know if we were going to go out to bid. I would want to go out to bid. So proactively, I have an RFP for a bus in case we have to do it. But I want to do that December, January timeframe because it takes them a long time to write a bid. Those bids are about this thing when they submit them. And not everybody wants to do that. And it takes them a long time. And when you go out to bid, and Bob can attest to this, it's always higher than a contract negotiation to extend because they have to do that and they have to be competitive with the next. So they can get more money. They know that.
So do you want to come back to the December meeting to try to get a final kind of consensus from us or earlier if you want?
Yeah.
What do you think you need to respond to them by?
They didn't give me a deadline, but obviously if I said we weren't interested, then they may offer it to somebody else. So, probably kind of just courtesy if we're not entertaining it, but I do think it'd be a mistake to turn it down. just from the numbers that I've run, that and reaching out to my colleagues that they're just seeing 14%, 9% increases in their contracts. And some of them are negotiating extensions for 3 and 5 and 6%. So that's where you're getting the lower percentages. So it's not unheard of to do that, really isn't.
Lindsay, don't you think it would be better to put it in November? Because like she said, if it is going out to our.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys are okay with it tonight, you could still put it back on the agenda, but I think it's Kim's recommendation. We've talked about the numbers a lot, so it's my recommendation as well. So I don't know that she'd be bringing any new information back.
Yeah.
It would just be,
Yeah.
had you guys thought about it and feel differently about it, it's
We-
you know, come
do we-
budget
would we
time.
Expect, that's what I was just saying, are we expecting there to possibly be an issue over the cost of it come budget season? We would have to explain that there'd be a savings purchasing those, correct?
We aren't really even gonna see much of an increase.
Okay.
In the, what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a muni lease line and then we're gonna have a transportation line. Now it's just gonna be split into 2 lines. And it's not gonna be a significant increase. And like I said, again, we'll show the decrease in the gas line, in the diesel line.
Yeah.
And that would just be the story to explain that.
I'd be fine moving forward with it as long as we were able to explain the cost savings and the
Yeah.
reasoning.
But again, if you guys
I'll give you time to think
wake up
about
in the
it.
middle of the night,
Yeah.
then we'll just put it on, you guys can put it on the agenda. Otherwise, I just want you to know that.
Yeah. All right.
Everyone all right with that?
Yeah. Okay. I have a lot of information here, so don't be afraid to ask questions
About what?
about the buses.
That's a good one.
They will sell, they will sell.
Never know, might be getting so thinking about the people, that purple one.
Definitely goes to the stunning, transportation software, moving software, so that's good, up to date. Speaking of buses, still just one last thing, we had some long bus routes and we had some parents calling and, not happy with the, riding time. We were able to add a bus. We spoke last time that we were going to do that. And we've also changed the order in which they are lining up at the schools with the hopes that the ones that are kids that are getting home later will not get home a little bit earlier because they're getting on the bus a little earlier. So far, I think that's resolved most of the issues. There's probably might still be 1 or 2 that aren't happy with the time, but the ride is still within maybe 35.
So it has gotten better than
Yes.
those original complaints.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. We did receive a grant, school security grant for multimedia. There was two grants. One was multimedia, one was just regular school security. We were not security, which was for new PA systems in schools. So unfortunately, that we were not chosen for that. We were chosen for the multimedia grant, which was the mutual link software. So it's a real-time cameras. Now, they only chose 4 out of the 5 schools. They did not approve Cotton Chunk. So I had asked, well, why? They said there was no reason, nothing we did wrong. They just didn't choose that school. So if we were to do that, and we have till 2026, so this is again, not time sensitive, it's just information. That we were awarded 119,000, but the local match is 56,000. So it still cost us money to get that grant because it's a match grant. And then Coggins-Shog would be another 40 because they didn't include Coggins-Shog. So we're looking at spending $96,000 to get the mutual link system. So it may not be even something that we want to do, but if we do, we've got that. I have time to accept it or to decline. And you mentioned the field house and the restroom, just stating that I have an email in to see how we can access those funds. So I don't have an answer on that yet. An athletic trainer, Todd has been making multiple attempts, emails to try to get, some kind of vendor or contractor, and it's not having a whole lot of luck. We still are having coverage from ETS, but that's games only, still not practices. So, we just don't have the people out there. Bob had asked about doctors, and I did bring that up to Todd, and he was going to talk to Dr. Driscoll, and see if there was anything. I think there's one person who North Branford uses, is an employee of Dr. Driscoll's, who may be able to cover some of ours if there were time, but so that's still, yeah, that's still an issue ongoing.
Are other districts in the same boat as us with that?
You know, a lot of them are, but then some of them have created positions and they're attracting people because they're full-time employees. So, one, I think Westbrook was one of the most recent ones, and I think they was 65 or 75,000.
Small district, so.
Yeah, and then of course with benefits and stuff, you know, that's an expensive proposition, but. Because we were at about 36,000 we paid, for our contract. So you can see why people are on the positions. That's all.
Alright. We'll move on to new business policy review. Bob, you take that one over. Always your
Yes,
favorite
sir.
time.
Huh?
It's always your favorite time.
The 9,000 is gonna be more fun, but the, this is the second read of the 4,000 series, just to quickly go over them. We're keeping item A, letter A is the one that we're recommending to adopt. It is, there's a slight change in the title just to say bloodborne pathogens. B is our current one, we're gonna delete. C is a current one and it's up to date, we're gonna keep that. D is a new one created by Shipman for hiring of non-certified staff, that's new. The nepotism E is one we're gonna use by Shipman. The current nepotism one we have is kind of out of date, and the new one has a lot different, you know, titles and languages in it. G is our current non-discrimination. We're going to replace that with the Shipman one. It's more current and has current legislative requirements in it. I is non-school employment. We're going to keep that related to activity of teachers who are working in other places. J is personal records. We're going to keep that, but we're going to add Linda's comment that you can get it the right to request your personnel records. That's an add. K, private tutoring is the same, keeping that, there's no change. L is psychotropic drugs by Shipman. We're going to adopt that one versus our current one. M, which would be deleted because it has current drug names in it and ours don't. N is 504 ADA. We're going to delete that one and adopt a revised one from Shipman on letter O. And sexual discrimination harassment, we're going to use our current one because we had amended it recently and not adopt Q, the Shipman one. And finally, the sudden cardiac arrest awareness, that's a new requirement and it's new. So we're recommending about the new one. So those are the second ones. We have a motion to adopt.
Second.
Alderman. All right, any discussion on A through R? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same. Right, motion passes. Thank you, Bob. You can list that one. Number 9, committee reports, Student Achievement Committee. Lucy, you want to take that one?
Yeah, most of the board members were at the meeting, so I'm gonna really just keep it brief. And there's more details in the minutes if anyone's interested. One of the items we talked about was we had an update on the EL curriculum, the new one that was put in. In May, there was professional development for the staff. half of it was on target, half of it was not, so they're, the district is negotiating to see if they can get something to replace that. There was professional development over the summer for most teachers. The state is not supplying any professional development, so the district is going to be meeting at least once a month with coaches to discuss challenges. And the first discussion is slated for, I believe, October 13th.
Friday.
That didn't change.
Actually,
There is a professional learning cohort from the EL company that is opening up across the state. And I believe we're going to become part of that. Some other districts in Connecticut using the EL program are like Clinton, RSD13, New Hartford, Newtown, sorry. Some of the issues so far that have surfaced, there are no previous year's data basis to examine during the PLCs, so they can make comparisons. And also, there are lower grade benchmarks are being used for grades 3 and 4 to check phonemic awareness because the students are coming in at a lower level than what is actually on in the curriculum. And some teachers are looking for foundations to help to address the phonemic deficiencies. There will be an update on the EL progress and issues at the board's November meeting. The second item we discussed was the teachers and administrators evaluation plan. It needs to be updated and the state will be putting forth a model. And we talked about different aspects of that, but that's just still up in the air. Number 3, we examined assessment data, the SBACs, NGSS, and the SATs. The committee briefly examined the district next generation accountability. That was about time with that word. Measures, particularly the SBAC, NGSS, and SAT scores. While overall the scores are improving, they have not yet reached pre-COVID test levels. This is not unique to RSD13. Most importantly, when examining achievement scores, though, is to also consider a student's growth, which tells more about a student's progress than just the raw scores of the individual testing. Also, it's important to note that the next generation accountability system examines at least 12 different aspects of student growth and success in addition, which includes the testing scores. But they're listed in the minutes. These accountability measures coincide with the district's portrait of a citizen, but they're still a work in progress, so there might be some revisions to those going forward. Another item we discussed was legislation for changes to the kindergarten age. The state is recommending that the entry age for kindergarten be 5 years old by September 1st to align with the rest of the country. Students will continue to be assessed for readiness if they do not meet the age recommendation. A draft of competencies was also passed out. These competencies also follow the portrait of a citizen that has already been developed in the district, but there's more detail in these competencies. They will be broken down going forward for each grade level, so that what we were looking at was the end result, and then they're going to be broken down to bring it down to each of the different grade levels. There was an update of the current district student-centered learning practices, and that will be discussed at our next committee meeting. There was not an update. It's going to be discussed at our next committee meeting. And the last item was the 5th grade social studies curriculum and the current 5th grade EL social studies scope and sequence. School districts, which I just learned, have a scope and sequence for social studies from the state, which I knew, but the districts can teach these topics in different orders. They don't have to all teach them at the same grade levels, as long as they're all covered within that certain grade level period. The current 5th grade is learning social studies topics in conjunction with the EL curriculum. And Mrs. Durkin detailed how this is being implemented in the 5th grade at Memorial. Is there anything else that anybody that you want to add, Jamie?
No, I mean, I'm gonna feel like 8 or 9 pages long on that, Jay, so if you have a chance, please go and look at them. I mean, Lucy, that was a really good summary of that meeting, though. It was long, it was good. Yes.
I didn't get a chance to read them, and I waited to go to that meeting, but the social studies. Right, which can explain exactly how it's being taught, because when I look at the pacing guide, I know my daughter is in 5th grade and she's not learning any of that pacing guide, but
She did explain, Noel did explain it, and, to be honest with you, I would have needed personally another explanation of it to be able to put it together, because I believe there's the EL curriculum, and then there's also the time for the social studies piece. I believe they were talking about, US history, the Revolutionary War area.
Yes,
era.
that's
Want to get it tonight, you'll probably explain that, but it's.
Maybe she can, if you want, we can have her come back and just explain.
No, I
it
mean,
in
I'm
more
reading the
detail,
minutes
but-
myself, but I just wasn't sure if there was like the detail.
I think there was a question of the difference between content versus inquiry.
Inquiry standards,
curriculum.
there's inquiry standards and content standards. So the inquiry standards are aligned with EL currently, and can be covered through the EL program. The content standards are being done through, at another point in the schedule that Noel talked about. There it's on, during open studio. time.
Which would be more, the way it seemed, the way that Noel explained it would be more projects each student would have, and then they would present those projects to their peers, and there would be some sort of competency along that level. Seems to be a fluid process at this point. Since
And that
it
would
was
be, to
new.
cover, yeah, the content alignment. That.
Yeah, it's not being taught the way we learned it.
But, you know, and I think, yeah, I'm not sure if we even asked for it, but it would be good to track this grade level just to see how, being a new schedule and that grade level, having, I believe it's level with lower scores, if we could keep updating on this, we'd really appreciate it. And maybe even possibly, after next student achievement, maybe we could bring it back to the full board, you know, have more of a in-depth discussion on it. Okay. Number 10, communications. I don't really have any other than the ones you guys have already received. I do have something, you know, I'd like to say on this aspect. And I think it's okay to talk about a couple, and I don't know if it's just more than a couple of us received another anonymous letter to our home this week. Written out to the board members of RSD13 and claiming to be staff. So that was obviously given to Doug and to the union. It seems to be the same, in my opinion, the same handwriting on the envelope that it was from the first one that we received. As far as I know, Lucy and I are the only ones that received it. I don't know if anyone else received it.
This most recent one?
Yes.
I did.
Oh, and Mariah did. So it didn't go to everybody, it looks like. And last time, I think it only went to you and I and Window.
I got it at my house the first time. I didn't,
Not the second.
not the
time.
second.
It went to your own personal address?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't been home, so could be waiting for me.
I got it today. I don't know if it was, I don't remember. We checked the mail yesterday, but I working nights.
So again, you know, we obviously can't have, we can't tell people they can't do that. But I would like to publicly state how inappropriate it was. My personal opinion is that it's not a staff member. It's concerning. It's not okay. It's uncomfortable. It's, you know, the most recent one was an attack on one of our board members. I think we all need to support each other and let everyone know that this is unacceptable. Not any volunteer here could be attacked or vilified for wanting to be here and away from our children and our families. We dedicate a lot of time to this, and I'm incredibly disappointed. Yeah, so I can send that if the board would like to see it. I can send it. But I hope that as a community, we can individually tell people that things like this are not acceptable. Now, my child shouldn't happen to open a letter because my kids are 13 right now and they love getting mail. And, you know, again, they're not supposed to open mine, but when they open it and they see something like that, it shouldn't happen to our homes. You know, things should be directed to the district, and I am sorry it happened.
And I think the thing is that not only is it outright lies, but
I think that this is a perfect example of what happens in these two towns, exactly what has been addressed at the 3 PTO meetings, that there are several people that are afraid to speak up in these two towns because of backlash. And I do feel that just become a perfect example of someone who was willing to speak up and to represent and has now become a target. And I think that itself is the most inappropriate, and I think it's very concerning to be a volunteer in this capacity. And I think that on top of it, to represent themselves as board, as staff members, and then to spell the superintendent's name wrong is also just, the whole thing is very uncomfortable and inappropriate, which I think that person used the term inappropriate several times.
So on that note, are there any other communications anyone wants to talk about? Any events we've been to? I was at this boys soccer game recently. Seems like all of our sports teams are doing really well. You know, I said to even to Doug the other day, like I do miss our reporters coming in. So I'd like for us to figure out some way, even if we're doing it every other month, to have the teams and the clubs come in somehow. Maybe work with Deb on that. I know Doug, you and I talked about that, but I don't know how everyone else feels, but I did like them being able to come in at least. Even if we did it every other month, we know how busy they are, but.
Yeah, updates would be nice. And what's going on in the school?
What do you think, Bob?
Couldn't hear you.
Oh, having like, maybe having the report,
Yeah.
different reporters coming in every other month or so. And work with Deb on people, different kids that can come in each month.
I think it also helps the student because they can use that as part of their applications. You know, it makes a big deal if they're presenting for the Board of Ed, and they have opportunity to do that and write that in their applications for college. It's a big addition when, you know, they know that they're doing public speaking and stuff like that. So I think it's, you know, an advantage for 4 or 5 or whatever number of students we have that can do that.
It might be even more too, if we can, you know, if we're changing it every month and Deb Stone's able to give us, you know, different students each month and different athletes and different clubs. That's even more kids that can put that out there. So it's important.
Or we always can go back to Mariah's question about whether or not we should have students on the board as non-voting members. We can do that again too.
Not really communication, but I reached out to Deb Murray personally because I've been volunteering for Go Far at Rooster. And I let her know, like, every one of the students has been so polite and so adorable when they run and they get their little popsicle sticks and say thank you and please. And that's it.
There's a unified soccer tournament tomorrow.
Is it?
Yep.
Is it here?
Yes, we're
It's here.
hosting it here at 3:30 to 5.
Just high school? I don't know if they're bringing
Yeah.
strong into.
Not in high school.
And
and other unified high schools.
You know what time?
I don't know.
3:30. She does 3:35.
I don't know. In the communication I got.
It's the unified,
Unified sports soccer.
Yeah, and Rafa's been really great. I just asked him to add me to the email list, so I got the emails. So it's good to keep up.
yeah, if you could forward, are we all getting them? Or-
No, you have to ask to be on the list. Email him and get
Maybe
added to the
we
list.
can all add it. And
Is it
then,
on the RSD13 calendar on the website?
I didn't check because I got the email. Sorry.
No, I'm saying it's a list.
I think that was one of the things we talked about last year and unified was added. I think we could talk about that. We can, and Todd's been working hard to make sure that calendar reflects what's going on and what's been canceled or rescheduled. That's important. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything? No, sorry, I'll move on. Public comment. At the end of the meeting, public comment to refer to items not on the agenda. In-person comment. Patrick.
I am sorry, I'll let you all go home soon. Patrick Holden Durham. I would just like to say, well, I'm encouraged from the conversation about the redistricting, the reconfiguration of the plan tonight. I'm encouraged that there seems to be a good consensus of keeping then a long-term goal in mind with that. I think it's important not to lose sight of that, and I would be really pleased next meeting if you do end up talking about that, or soon after, coming to some sort of idea of where we want to land at, because K5 has been thrown around a lot. If that is what the board wants to do, hopefully that decision can be officially made, so then we can start linking those plans together. The other thing I would just like to say on that note, with the community conversation side of thing, I do think that is very important. As I think I said last time, right now, I still don't think that the overall community is going to go a majority with a plan for a K-5. I think solely because, as has been stated from the meetings at the recent schools, is that I don't think that there are people that are on board with it yet, based on what was said, what Dr. Shook said. So a community conversation would be a great way to have that outreach and those discussions. And I think having multiple actually would serve very well. Forget who mentioned that here, but in order to, instead of it being a huge crowd of the public and then just all of you, we can split that up, and then you can have smaller, more intimate connections and conversations, and hopefully get people on board, explain your plan, and hopefully have a way to move forward with a K-5 that would benefit everybody. And also just, I hope that, as was stated at the end of this meeting tonight, everybody can, both on this board and in the community, can continue to come together and be civil and actually have conversations that are meaningful, rather than trying to antagonize or villainize, as you stated. I think that would be good for all parties, regardless of what your opinion is. So I thank you all again for your work. I'm feeling very good listening to this meeting, and I look forward to seeing what everybody did to do from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Remote public comment. If there's anyone online that would wish to speak, please raise your hand. I see Carl. You don't want to say hi? Carl. Nope, Carl's good. All right. On that. Should I get on the other page? Oh, I forgot. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Oh, no, hold on. I know we said it, but Carl. Hold on. He put his hand up last second. Who's Carl?
Motion to go back in session.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm a little slow. Hello, everyone.
Hold on a second, Carl.
Recording.
Yeah, I want to make a motion to go back into session. Yes.
Oh, that's all right. Just thank you, everyone, for all your work.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl. Good night, Carl.
Be well.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too. I got